Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast,
a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend. So just to kind of recap this particular section, understand what the ethos of your company is. What is it that makes your company different? Now, obviously, are there a bunch of original ideas or out there? No, there's a lot of the same ideas being recycled over and over. But what makes it special and what makes it different is the way that you as an individual, your story, your background, how you go ahead and execute it, right? So I just gave you guys my mission of my particular company, and I'm very driven to execute it the way that Brent LaBrada would execute it. So if you guys want to take that mission and do it yourself, it's going to end up becoming a very different product. And as long as it's helping dogs and you guys are able to do it in an authentic way, then it's original idea, right? It's an original execution of that idea. So that's where dog training kind of serves a little bit as art. So next one is your target audience, making sure you guys know who you're trying to appeal to. Jonas Black, Nahum Russell, Sean O'Shea, Jeff Gelman, a lot of these trainers that we've interviewed, they have very a certain audience that they target, right? And I think, what's that saying, Mariano? It says, like, if you try and make something for everybody, you make, what is it?
Yeah. If you try to make a product for everybody, or like that everybody likes, nobody's going to love it because it's too bland. It's too generic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like,
and I
it's
agree
like
with
music.
that 100%.
Yeah, it's like people, let's say, like smooth jazz. You can play it anywhere. It's very marketable, but not many people love smooth jazz. Like the opposite example being something that's edgy, like punk rock back in the day. People go hard for like the Sex Pistols versus like Chuck Mangione. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's because even though the Sex Pistols have, or maybe a more modern like take would be, you guys know, as big as hip hop artists are, like pop culture wise, financially they're not that big. Like Adele makes way more money than Drake. Yeah. Taylor Swift makes, because their music is a bit more like universal, let's say. Like you can get away with playing Taylor Swift in like a Forever 21 store. You know what I'm saying? So like,
I don't know, man. I think Drake makes those ducats. Just saying.
Well, Drake. Yeah, okay, fine. Well, then here's another example. Like Kendrick, J. Cole, like whatever. Because naturally the essence of hip hop is they're going to be very realistic, very gritty, very which makes it less commercial. Let's say it's obviously commercial enough that these guys are making great livings, but they're never going to be as rich as like Madonna. So
because they're an empire.
Correct. But the difference is people go hard. Like you represent a generation very closely. So that's true. Right. So sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that. It's just, if you create a product that's potentially too generic, it doesn't seem personalized.
Makes sense. Makes 100% sense. And then the last point is we talk about creating an online presence. Remember, make sure you guys pee on your trees. You got to pee on your trees.
I already forgot you had said that.
We got to pee on your trees. So let's go ahead and take another commercial break, and we'll get back and close up this last point that we have to make. And we'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Sweet.
Hey guys, it's Brent with the Dog Trainers Podcast. Now, did you guys know that if you leave us a review, it's easier for people to find us on their podcast platforms? So please go ahead and leave us a review on whatever podcast platform you're on. We'd really appreciate it. And now let's get back to the show.
What's up, everybody? We are back. Thank you again so much for listening. Please do leave us a review. It helps us so much. Now let's dive right back into it, okay? So we've talked about having an online presence, making sure that you've decided the ethos of your company, your audience, your pricing, and all that good stuff. Now, we want to talk about something that when you find yourself in this position, it's a ton of fun. It's very exciting and kind of new, but it's something you want to make sure you do right. So we figured it's worth touching on, and that is scaling up your business. So with that, go ahead, man. Dive right on in.
Yeah, I guess scaling up is a thing. There's going to naturally be this demand for your business. As long as you're putting out a good product, as long as you're treating your clients with love and respect, and the dogs are enjoying the training and you're getting the results that you guys want, you're naturally going to grow. That's just how things work, right? It's just how it works. And so naturally, there's going to be this demand for more training. Now, you can either be a one-man show and try and train all the dogs yourself, right? I have a good friend who the way that he worked early on in his career is he would train for 3 months and take a month off. Then he would train straight for 3 months and take a month off. And he's an amazing, amazing trainer. And still till this day, he has a very small team. Now, if you guys think about it, he's training maybe like 5 dogs, 5 dogs a month, putting his heart and soul into each and every dog, really like an artist in a painting. He's putting in this detail work. And then he takes a month off. This guy's making money. Don't get me wrong. He's making money, right? And that could be your dream. That could be a dream, a model that you follow. But scaling up, if you guys are thinking of maybe one day having a rescue, or one day having a facility, or one day having a team of trainers that work with you, and that you're able to serve your community a little bit better, right? Like Vinny from Say It Once, an amazing example of someone who had a passion when he was a kid, grew it to the point where he has multiple facilities, multiple employees, and just grow, right? And so if you have that passion or that drive to build a team, growing the team is a really tricky thing, right? Because who do I pick? How do I find the right employee, right? And some of it is luck, not going to lie. Some of it is luck. Finding the right person is a little bit of luck, but having an open enough mind to be able to see potential in people. And so what I want to talk to you guys about is like how you grow your particular team in general, right? So I'll tell you guys my story. Okay. So when I first left my company, obviously I had many trainers that I had worked with, many trainers that I had trained to start their own businesses. And then all of a sudden I'm a solo act, right? It's me by myself with all my clients that I've developed over the years. And naturally there was a huge demand for people being referred to me. And so the first thing I had to do was I had to figure out, all right, what am I good at? I said, okay, I'm good at training. I'm good at teaching. I'm good at coming up with curriculums and problem solving, right? I realized those are things that I'm really good at. What do I suck at? Well, I suck at being on a schedule. I suck at being super consistent every single day, like a routine. I suck at cleaning. Like I'm not a clean person necessarily. Like I don't wake up in the morning and clean my room. I don't get up in the morning and clean my kitchen. And so what I wanted to look for someone who was not like me, someone who was completely opposite of me, but had passion for animals, and most importantly, had really good energy. Okay. Good energy is probably one of the most important things to look for in an employee. That's my opinion, right? And what we mean by good energy is you don't want a negative person around. You don't want a person who is full of excuses. You don't want a person who doesn't know how to execute. You don't want a person who is moody and slides back and forth between stability and chaos, right? You want to have someone who is ready to work, who is responsible, who cares. And luckily I was able to find that in one of my trainers, Christiana, early off in my solo career, right? So now all of a sudden I go from being a team of 1 to now being a team of 2. And now that I have a team of 2, her and I were able to triple, quadruple the things that I was able to do by myself. So it's crazy how exponential that is, right? Getting one person helps you not just double, it helps you triple what you're capable of in a business, right? And then I went from a team of 2 to a team of 4, and then from a team of 4 to a team of 6. And then now I'm finally at a team of 10 currently as we speak today. And we're growing and growing and growing and growing. So growing the team, what you have to look at is you have to look at what responsibilities need tending to, right? And so as we started to be able to collect more dogs, well, I needed people to make sure that they could care for those dogs. So I needed to hire care attendants, people who could walk the dogs, play with the dogs, clean the dogs, feed the dogs, poop and pee the dogs, do everything that needed to happen prior to the actual training of the dogs. Now, mind you, a lot of these care attendants eventually evolve into assistant trainers and trainers over time. But this is how I navigated my growth of my team, is what needed to be helped, right? or like what needed attention. Bookkeeping needed attention, so I hired a bookkeeper. My reception needed attention, so I hired a receptionist. And so this is how teams grow: is you start seeing what needs tending to, and you hire a person to be able to fulfill those responsibilities.
Totally. And when you are hiring these people and you're deciding, because of course, when you're hiring people, that means you've written up, a description of the job. You've put out a certain pay rate, or maybe it's negotiable or whatever, but it's still negotiable, like within a window, I'm sure. So that also means you have to decide, of all of these things that need to get done, you now have to decide, get done by who and in what order and in what time frame. Because when you start hiring employees, this is something that you guys will really start to deal with when you've got employees of different like types. Because when you start early on, maybe you have like an assistant or an assistant trainer or something, and it's like one person, two people, but they like have the same job essentially. Versus when you have like a group of 10, I'm currently at 5, like, when you've got several people and it's like, I've got my assistant trainer and I've got my, kennel staff and I've got my intern and I've got my whatever. So like everybody's got their different jobs to do. The last thing I want to see, just logistically, guys, this is just being honest, right? As the owner of the company, the last thing I want to see is wasted efforts. The last thing I want to see is something not being done by the person who could do the best job at it.
Right.
And that means if I've got an assistant trainer who's very good, I don't really want to see you scrubbing kennels.
Right.
That's what the kennel staff is for. I want to see you training because that's what I hired you to do. That's why you make the more money. That's why the blah, 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 know? So, and if you're not doing that because you're scrubbing kennels, I know for a fact these kennel staff ain't training the dogs because they can't do that. Right. That's why you're in the position you're in and they're not. Right. But so in order for the business to move as efficiently as possible, you have you're one of the hats you have to wear within your company. Because mind you, me and Brent are still in the position where we're still training in our own companies. Like we're still workers in the machine here.
Yep.
So not only are we kind of the head of the business, like the top of the chain of command, if you have a problem, you go to this person ultimately lands on us. But also we're still the front man of the business, dealing with clients, selling packages, doing all that good stuff, training dogs, especially the dogs that the less experienced trainers can't deal with.
Right.
And we have to now be the logistical person in charge of who's doing what. Hey, why is this person doing that job? Hey, why did this not get done? Well, who's in charge of that? And you have to start putting things in their respective categories because that helps you simplify your day because you still have dogs to work. We still have clients to correspond with. We still have packages to sell. So we can't be spending all day on this kind of stuff. So maybe as your team grows, you look into somebody who can then do that, like a manager,
Right.
Brent was talking about a person to do the front desk type stuff, right? A reception person, somebody to be the front half of the business, right? The really happy person who's willing to answer questions and take payments and stuff like that. So that's the other half of it. And, I just wanted to give my quick 2 cents on when I'm hiring somebody. I completely agree with Brent. Vibe matters a ton.
Right.
If you don't put out a good, like a vibe that people want to associate with, especially the rest of your team, especially when it's your business, because now you're the one who's, even if it's 10 people, 5 people, whatever, if you're the one who's hired these other 9 people, the last thing you want is to put someone in who the other 9 don't like, because you're kind of like spiting yourself at this point. You've taken the time to grow these employees and teach them things because, like Brent was saying, there's a lot of upward mobility in this field. Right? People start as kennel staff and they end up as head trainers and, or more, right? So when you're hiring, the vibe is very huge. Personally, for me, you guys, something I look for a lot in my kennel staff is, and assistant trainers especially. I like people who want to grow. I like people who are willing to keep an open mind regarding training. I like people who understand just how diverse the world of training is. It's not just dogs, it's clients, it's tools, it's this and that. It's the weird dog politics. It's all this crazy. And then not to mention all the extracurricular stuff, like Brent and I are doing right now, like the podcast and the foundation and all that stuff. So I like people who are motivated in that respect. I like people who are very coachable, and I like people who want to grow. Like this may sound crazy to people, but just the way that I run my business personally, okay? Agree or disagree, it's all good. I tell them I want someone who's going to outgrow me in a few years. I want somebody who you have plans bigger than me, because that means you're a hard worker, like entrepreneurial minded person. And I want that on my team. And if you outgrow me in a few years, great. See you later. It's been fun. Now I move on to the next one, and I get to keep kind of going through this like mentorship essentially. But these are the people I want to attract, because this is the group I want to cultivate. I want a group full of entrepreneurs. I want somebody to walk in to visit their dog or drop off their dog for daycare and see these hard workers, not just like cogs in the machine. And I don't want to be disrespectful to people who just kind of like show up and do their job, because that's very necessary too. But like we were talking about before, it's all about putting people where it makes the most sense for them to be. If you're someone like, here's an example. I hired a guy who's a photographer. He's got a lot of years in photography, and he just wanted to learn about dogs. You know, I don't expect him to want to become like the next head trainer of this business. But if you want to learn stuff about dogs, all right, I'll put you where I think makes sense. How about a part-time kennel staff job? You'll learn a lot about dogs. You'll learn a lot more than you would think you would. It's a lot of grunt work, but what do you care? You're a photographer. You know what I mean? And he liked it. And it fit perfectly well. Whereas I've got my assistant trainers who really want to grow and learn. She's Claudia, the one that you see online, and she's getting good fast, right? And
it's crazy
and
how fast they get good.
And it's cool because I know she, based on the effort and inquisitive nature that she gives me, the questions, everything else, like I know she wants to keep growing, so I keep feeding her. I'm like, all right, man, you want it, here it is, you know. So that's kind of how I pick and choose my people. But I definitely think it's a realistic take on how you have to look at things when you're hiring, is who's good at what. Who's going to be good at what long term? When you're factoring all that, then you start factoring pay and benefits and all that. But it's definitely a dense one.
Yeah, there's a learning curve, you know. But some of the principles, again, energy. Like I'm the type of person I look for the best in everyone. But my mentor, he taught me, you got to look how people are. Like everyone can be good for a week at work. Totally. But can you be good for a month, 2 months, 3 months? You know what I mean? So it's so easy to be consistent short term. Can you be consistent long term? And you don't know those things until you invest in people, but you really have to try and get to know people. So it's so funny. My interviews for my company, we talk about dogs for like 5 minutes. Right. And the other 30 minutes, I'm just getting to know them, get to know what they're about, what their family dynamics like, you know, their other jobs that they've had, what kind of experience in life they've had. And, you know, it just helps me get a better idea. Same way when we're kind of assessing dogs, right? Like what is this person's drive? What is this person's weakness? What is this dog's, is there a self-control issue? Is there a patience issue? Is there a focus issue? Right. So it's very similar to kind of how we would see, like, how am I going to train this dog to do X, Y, and Z? It's how am I going to motivate this person to learn X, Y, and Z? You know, right? And
how is this person going to do when I throw them in the pack with the data? You know, like, there is a lot of similarity there, and also, it's a very fair point to say, especially in the dog training world, because you know you have to learn a lot about people. So when you're because I agree with you, like a lot of it is just getting to know the person. You know, the things that people do, the things that they like, it says a lot about who they are, right? Oh, I'm very competitive. I like to play. Oh, okay. Well, that tells me a ton, right? Right. I'm very analytical. I'm currently in school. That tells me a ton. Like, so it's very important to get to know people, to find out not only kind of like who they are, but also who they are right now. Right. You know, maybe a full-time student who also has another job may not be the perfect fit if you're looking for like a full-time person. So, you know, it's all about finding out, are you going to make sense right here, right now?
Yes.